Hi, we're Quentin Curious Volumes. My name is James. Today's Friday, so I thought I'd come on here and do a little bit of Friday reads. Tell you what I've been reading this week. As you probably know, if you follow my channel, it's Chekhovember. So we are reading two Chekhov plays and a novella and a couple of short stories in this month. Um, so Yesterday I read The Cherry Orchard by Anton Chekhov, his last play, and it's just fantastic. I'm going to save most of my thoughts on that for a dedicated Chekhovember video. Along with this, and this is not an official part of the Chekhovember experience, so I'm just going rogue here, but I've been reading the short stories of Anton Chekhov, just one per day basically, um, because it was kind of the genesis of the Chekhovember idea. Was I got this selected stories and noticed that it had 30, 30 stories, including a couple of novellas, and that there are 30 days in November, and that it makes a neat little you know the word for the thing that has two sides on it, portmanteau word. So how could I resist, right? Anyway, I'm about to start reading a boring story, which is like 50 pages long, and it's called A Boring Story. So there you go. However, none of these stories so far have been boring. They're all very short. They kind of have sort of a pattern. Like the first sentence is almost always uh, character name is sitting in this type of room where he or she is so many years old and is wearing a green tunic or whatever, and describes the setting and what they're thinking about. But then they go into all kinds of different wonderful places. Some very disturbing. The last one I read was called Sleepy. And so, yes, we have Sleepy and it's followed by a boring story. But Sleepy is about a young woman. I suppose she's not exactly a governess, but she works for the family of a craftsman, and she's tasked with, she's a servant, and she's tasked with rocking a baby, her employer's baby. And whenever it starts to cry, she has to rock the cradle, and she's getting very tired, and she's keeps sort of having these visions of things from her past, and realizes that she's fallen asleep. Probably had this experience. And then gets called to do these other things, and she's barely staying awake. It, it's a really it's a good story. It takes a very dark turn at the end. But they're just fantastic. There's the the story, the death of a clerk, which is there's the first one, so a very early story of about a minor bureaucrat who sneezes on his boss at the theater one night, and it just drives him crazy with guilt and shame, and he keeps trying to apologize, and the guy keeps saying, "Well, that's okay, just forget about it." And uh, it takes these just you should read them for yourself. They're pretty good. Um, and it's also nonfiction November. I have a pile of nonfiction books that I'm kind of dealing with. One of them is The Witches by Stacy Schiff. This is a history of the Salem witch trials. And this is the book that I've been reading while trying to fall asleep. So I'm going very slowly through it. It's really good, really well told. A couple of months ago, I read the Crucible by Arthur Miller. So some of these people in here are characters in that play. But this is, of course, you know, an honest-to-God history, a full-length history, so, you know, he's not, or she, Stacy Schiff, is not trying to, you know, create compelling dramatic characters, but they certainly are. I mean, especially the character of Reverend Paris, who is one of the main antagonists in the Crucible, and of course he's a major player here because it was within his household that the first reports of people being bewitched arose. So that is really good, and if you're looking for a book on the Salem witch trials or just a history to read, give that a try. Witches by Stacy Schiff. It's really good. I am also. I've read the Chekhov sections of Vladimir Nabokov's lectures on Russian literature, and of course, you know, you couldn't ask for a better guide to Russian literature than Nabokov. Apparently, these are, you know, based on his course that he taught at Cornell University on Russian literature in translation. I think, yeah, because there are, it includes some like some of his teaching notes and like syllabuses and handwritten stuff and typed up passages of such. So that's pretty cool. Let's see what else. This is an advanced reader's copy, so this book's not out yet. It's called Doc Watson: A Life in Music by Eddie Huffman, who is not an academic, but this is going to be published by the University of North Carolina Press in January. And I'm reading this to write a review about it. If you don't know who Doc Watson is, he is, or he was. He died in 2000. It says here, doesn't it? 2012. 2012. Yeah. He was a guy from North Carolina, blind from a very early age, but a very talented guitar player and singer. Very influential on what became known as bluegrass music, although he rarely played himself in, you know, a strictly traditional bluegrass setting. He was more what you'd call a folk musician, a songster. You know, he played traditional music that he learned from the people around him, or from the radio, or from records, and just had this combination of like kind of sort of homespun, like a laid back homespun kind of charisma, with incredible virtuosity, and he could, you know, he played, was most influential among flat pick guitar players. So people who play acoustic guitar with, you know, a plastic pick and will play very fast lines and sort of weave it into their chord playing. He also played fingerstyle, that is, you know, plucking the strings with his fingers. He played banjo and harmonica. He did a lot, and he was a great singer, and is a very important person for, you know, North Carolina music and for traditional American folk music. So you know, he kind of came into a wider audience in around the time of the 1960s folk music revival. So he, you know, kind of had a life as a traveling recording musician, you know, which would not have been, you know, wasn't possible for a lot of people before the 60s. So there you go. I'm only about 50 pages into that, but it's really good so far. A couple of other things I've been reading a little bit of, I guess nonfiction books. I got a copy of Alain de Botton's How Proust Can Change Your Life. I guess it's not really a book about literature or about Proust. It's kind of a self-help book that has many quotes from Proust. So I don't know. I've enjoyed some Alain de Botton in the past. I liked his Consolation of Philosophy, I think it was called. or Consolations of Philosophy. That was a pretty good book. It's popular philosophy. It's really self-help in the dressed up as philosophy. Using philosophers and their lives and writings as kind of the jumping off point. And then I have read a couple of pages of this, and it's pretty fun. It's My Dog Tulip by J.R. Ackerly. I don't really know this writer. Apparently, he was a British man of letters in the mid 20th century, and he kind of late in life he adopts for some reason a German Shepherd who he barely trains and becomes kind of a terror to everyone. But this is one of the classic dog books, so I've had it on my shelf for a while. I've had a lot of these New York Review of Books classics on my shelf for a while. I haven't read any of them. So anyway, yeah. So I guess I'll read this one. And of course, still making slow progress on Sonic Life, the memoir of Thurston Moore. I haven't listened to much of that this week because I've been preoccupied with the news. The news. So that's been something. And we just don't know exactly what the repercussions are going to be. It's probably not going to be. It's not. Look, it's not the way I wanted it to go. So you don't come here for politics. I'm not on here to talk politics or to argue politics with people. You can find that done a lot better on plenty of other channels, but it's a regrettable situation, and I hope we make it through okay. I hope most of us do. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of dogs, my little dog is doing all right. She's a little vain, so she doesn't want me to show you on camera because she's got to wear a cone because she's got an ulcer on her cornea, which is apparently something that is not uncommon with poodles and boxers as well. So she's recovering fine, but she has to have drops in her eye, and they want her to have a cone on for another few more days. So little Coney is she doesn't want people to to see her wearing a cone, which is okay. I'll honor her wishes, but she has figured out how to get it off sometimes. So I have to be careful of that. If she's in the other room and I hear this banging on the floor, I'm like, I think it's happening. So there you go. That's what's going on with me and my little Coney dog, and a big pile of books that I'm slowly making my way through. Also, I've discovered and can maybe recommend to you Brodart therapy. Are you familiar with Brodart? That is the company that makes archival coverings for dust jackets. And let me grab one. So I don't have a big collection of signed first editions and valuable books, but I do have a few. Like here's a signed first edition of John Darnielle's Universal Harvester that I got at a thrift store for $2. But I'm like, I should put the thing about these books, I'm not a collector really, but so much of their value is tied up in the condition of this piece of paper, this flimsy piece of paper that is wrapped around in an awkward way and is very prone to tearing on the edges and fraying. I'm like, other people have their books wrapped up in these covers, so I ordered a roll of this stuff and covered my small collection of signed first editions, all 3 of them, and I still had plenty left, and I'm like, well, I've got some other old books that some of the things that you would tend to go back to and read a lot, and And they've got sort of starting to fray dust jackets. I covered some of those. It's a pretty good way to pass a little bit of time. Get you a 10-inch wide roll of Brodart from Amazon or from where did I get mine from? Manhouse Books, I think it was called. They also sell through Amazon. Maybe you want to give Amazon a break. Maybe you want to stop sending money to Amazon for a little while, for some reason. Buy direct from Manhouse Books, and in Limestone, Maine, up there on the Canadian border, and you get you a roll of that stuff, and you slice it into wedges, and not wedges, big rectangles, and you wrap up your dust jackets, and your books are all compact and shiny, and you don't have to worry about wrecking the dust jacket, and yeah, it's nice. So maybe do some Brodartin and see if that helps you pass the time, takes your mind off of things for a while. I don't recommend escapism as a rule, but sometimes you've gotta. Sometimes it's helpful. You gotta have a little bit of space, so we can not drive ourselves crazy, and so that we can resist when it's time to resist, and so that we can come back to fight another day. Anyway, that's what I have. How are you dealing with it? Have you taken up Brodartin? Have you Brodarted any of your books? Have you turned to any other weird, obsessive little tasks or hobbies to pass the time? Are you reading a bunch of nonfiction for Nonfiction November? Are you participating in Chekhov-ember? Come on, all the cool kids are doing it. All right, that's all I have. Thanks for watching. Bye.